Could a Halloween and Friday the 13th crossover actually work?
Place your bets.
Hi guys, my name's Barry and welcome back to the channel. One of the biggest questions in the horror community is always going to be a specific character versus another specific character, and that usually involves Jason Voorhees and or Michael Myers. And one of the big questions is, what could happen if we mix Michael Myers with Jason Voorhees? Because they are some of the most similar characters in the horror genre. I know you get characters like Chucky, Pinhead, Freddy Krueger, Leatherface. All those characters are starkly different, so to face them off against each other is a little bit strange. If you even go back to 2003 when you had Freddy versus Jason, I personally didn't think it would work. I was 19 when the movie came out, and when it came out I thought, do you know what, that's a job well done. It's not the best film ever made, but it worked and it was decent. But then if you look at Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees, they're actually really similar characters. I know that Jason Voorhees is more of a zombie in his later films, but so was Michael Myers at one point. So if you face them off against each other at their strongest, could that actually work? Well, first of all, off the bat, guys, I don't like the idea of a versus movie. I get this all the time on my channel. People say, we need to get Michael versus Jason. We need to get Chucky versus Megan. We need to get Ash versus whoever. I think it's cheesy. I think its time is done. Alien versus Predator's gone, and so is Freddy versus Jason. I don't think those ideas would work in the modern world. It was a good one-off and it was fun, but I don't think it would work, especially with characters like Michael Myers. I believe characters like Michael Myers belong in universes like Hannibal Lecter or Norman Bates. Those are serious characters that don't deserve to be plopped into a franchise where it's a character versus another character from another movie. Now, we are obviously ignoring the fact that they're from different studios, and that obviously wouldn't work because studios don't agree with each other. But for the sake of this video, we're going to ignore studio rights. Miramax doesn't exist. Trancas doesn't exist. Warner Brothers, New Line Cinema, it doesn't matter. All we're focusing on here is the characters and if the characters would work if they were in the same movie. One of the reasons that Freddy versus Jason works so well, and surprisingly well, is because both characters were the complete opposite of each other. As you know, Freddy Krueger talks a lot, he makes jokes, he doesn't shut up. Whereas you've got Jason Voorhees, who is a silent killer who doesn't speak. So if you've got two antagonists going up against each other, and you want to just see those two fighting each other, there has to be some sort of dialogue. So Freddy Krueger being there makes sense. But if you have this similar movie with Michael Myers fighting Jason Voorhees, there's not going to be any dialogue. They won't be talking to each other. We won't know what they're thinking. And it would be pretty boring, to be honest. That's my opinion, of course. I just think it wouldn't work because the characters are too similar. Now, that's what people are confused with, because they're saying, get Michael versus Jason because they're similar characters. It makes sense. And I'm like, well, it doesn't make sense at all because they are so similar. It just wouldn't make sense. It makes sense in your mind, but to see it on screen, it would be boring. Because both characters have had different strengths throughout their careers in their movies, what level would you give both characters in this versus movie? If you soup up both characters to the absolute maximum, there's also not going to be a clear winner. Maybe that's what people want to see. They don't want to know who would be a clear winner, but you want to have some sort of advantage and disadvantage for both characters. And if you show the same disadvantages for Jason as you did in Freddy versus Jason, it would be very predictable and again, boring. When you look at Michael Myers, he has some sort of disadvantage when it comes to the curse or thorn, but that would be weird to see in a movie with Jason Voorhees. So I feel like both characters, although are very similar, they're worlds apart in terms of the movie rules to both of their movies. If you top all that off with the cheese factor, like I mentioned, I don't like the idea of a versus movie. I think it's very childlike to suggest a versus movie. Now, I did suggest versus movies in my teens and maybe into my early 20s. But to me, looking back, I feel like that was quite childish for me to think that way. And I'm not saying you're a child if you feel that way. I think just the way it's processing in my mind, I just don't think it would work. But as a younger version of myself, I could see why it would work. And I would argue till I was blue in the face to say why it would work. But looking back, I just know that it wouldn't. I think the idea of seeing Michael and Jason sharing a screen is fun. It's a fun prospect of seeing something like that happen. And I think a versus movie like that is best suited to a fan film. I know that fan films aren't the greatest, but you do get some decent fan films out there that has Michael in them and has Jason in them. And heck, there is even a Michael versus Jason fan film out there just now that's semi decent. That's good for a fan film, but I think that's where it belongs. So if you're looking at a versus movie that has serious stakes in it, you're not going to get it unless it makes sense or unless they already share the same universe. So when it comes to Michael and Jason, they haven't shared the same universe before, and I don't think they ever should. But what are your thoughts on that, guys? Just because that's my thoughts doesn't mean that rings true. It's just my opinion. But what is your opinion? Do you think Michael and Jason should share a universe? And can they share a universe? Leave your thoughts and opinions down below. Let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you soon.
Meeting adjourned.
I'll be right back.
What are you waiting for, huh?
Coming to get you, Barbara.
Ever played Skin the Cat?
Someone's in